Who would you pick for Grandmammy?
Meryl Streep, obviously.
Yeah. Hey, what about Juicebox? This is the funny one. Your voice actor for Juicebox.
I think also Benedict Cumberbatch.
What about The Rock?
Oh, Dwayne Johnson. Yeah. You know what? Let's just do Dwayne Johnson for everybody.
Butterscotch.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 81 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the game dev comedy podcast of Butterscotch Shenanigans. I'm Seth, and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam. I'm the analytics licker.
Ew. I'm Sam, and I make art. Also, I do a lot of other things.
It's true, you do.
I do.
Today is January 10th, 2017. We have a warning. Anything can happen on this show. There's going to be profanity, and we're going to talk about a bunch of nonsense. So
It's going to be horrible.
So if you're a child, go away. So we got some news this week. A bunch of interesting things coming up. First thing, our buddies over at Graphite Lab, which is
Another local studio.
Another studio from here in St. Louis. They are launching their first ever game project that's theirs.
They normally do client work.
Yeah, they normally do client work. And this time, the tables have turned.
This time they're the client.
Or we're the client. Like everybody in the world.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because players are your client.
Exactly. So they're making a game called Hive Jump. It is coming out on the
20th.
20th?
No, wait. Shit. We don't know, actually.
18th.
Soon.
It's hard to identify the date because of how.
It's coming out
So it's in early access.
It's in early access. Yeah, you can go get it right now.
You can go get it right now, but
But don't, because
yes,
it's
save it
not
for
out
launch
yet.
day, because the way that the stores calculate all this stuff is that your launch day sales are a big part of what continues to get you featured on launch day. So wish list it, and then I think it comes out. It's like the 18th, maybe 18th, 20th, something like that. But just pay attention to it and get it when it comes out. It's sort of a co-op alien shooting backpack riding sort of
Yeah,
Star
alien
Trooper
wrangling.
homage.
Yeah, their original kind of
very good.
pitch for the game was sort of that it's like a Starship Troopers Contra bullet shooty alien swarming murder fest.
And it's super pretty because they
That's
use a
actually
thing-
the title of the.
that's
of
the
game.
subtitle. It's called Hive Jump.
The byline.
Starship Trooper Contra bullet hell alien swarming
And whatever the
murder
words you
fest.
said. Yeah.
2017.
Yeah, and they also use so it's all pixel art, which is the pixel art is phenomenal. But then on top of that, they used a thing called Sprite Lamp, which allows you to make what essentially it makes light interact with the pixel art in such a way as to render it like it's in 3D with regards to light sources. And so when you fire a bullet, then it lights up parts of your gun and stuff in really incredible ways that we're not gonna do.
Nope. And we.
No,
So
we're way too lazy to do.
If you want some beautiful gameplay, go over there.
And we would definitely recommend for all you new devs out there, also don't do that.
Don't do that, because it
increases-
makes it so that you have to make every frame of every image 5 times.
Yes.
The first time is the normal one, and then the other 4 are different light maps.
And you need better artists, like really good ones.
Yeah, so we're not qualified in the slightest. to do that. So
But they are. They did it.
It's coming out soon, and check it out. They did win the Indie PopCon Award, so it's not just us playing favorites. They won a sort of game dev challenge out in Indianapolis. So
It's the
they're
same one
legit.
that we didn't win 2 years ago.
And we can also say
got second
so
place.
they got hit
We
so
third
a
place?
while back. We talked about
place.
the change in Steam's rating system
Mhm.
and the way that Steam makes it so that if you received a key from the developer directly, then your rating does not count in the game's total review score. And this hits Kickstarted games particularly hard, and Hive Jump is one of those. Where they've been in early access, so kind of just chugging along in the background. And they have 80 something reviews for their game so far, but 50 of them were from Kickstarter backers.
Yep.
And so their
They
Kickstarter
just
backers
don't count.
Yeah. But they still have 30 something remaining reviews from non-Kickstarter backers. And out of those, they still have a 94% positive. So,
It's pretty good.
It's getting a good response. So we're excited for them. It's their first big game launch that they've been doing. So
So again, it's Hive Jump. Wishlisted on Steam, or check out Graphite Lab, just.com.
Probably.
To see all the info about it. And Eric Hibbler, who's the guy who does our poster work and our sort of cover art paintings and stuff, he also did the cover art for their game, which is just ridiculously cool.
Yeah.
As per usual.
yeah, they got it going on. So that's cool. That's coming up. We also have the Crashlands documentary.
That's coming out
Which is
next
not
week
ours.
too. It's not ours.
it is about us, but it's
We are
not.
the subjects, but not the creators.
We had nothing to do with the creation except being interviewed a bunch. And that's being made by Forever an Astronaut. It's being published by Devolver.
Yep. Devolver has a movie publishing wing.
Yeah.
I actually didn't even know until they got that.
And I think it's going to be coming out on
I think it's on Steam,
Steam?
too. Yep. It'll be on the 1 year anniversary of Crashlands. So it's on the 21st is when it comes out.
Yeah, which is next Saturday.
Yeah. It'll be on Steam and a couple other distribution platforms. So again, with that one, you can I think if you go to foreveranastronaut.com, there's links to it there. And you can wish list it on Steam maybe if the page.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Can you wish list
I don't
movies?
know.
I don't know.
We don't know how
anything
these things work.
I was Steam
I think
only
you
recently
can.
started to kind of open up that thing more, and I think we might have talked about this in a previous episode, but I believe they're also at some point in the indeterminate future going to be sort of separating the store a bit into like games and movies, and
Right,
VR,
right.
but as separate stores basically.
Different entertainment media.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you have any, if you want to look at what it's like behind the scenes to work on a game, they were in the room with us when we were launching the game, like when we were hitting the launch button, when we were waiting to see what our feature spots were. They were in the hospital with Sam when he was going through his cancer stuff. I mean, they were very involved with our day-to-day
Plus
stuff.
they got all of our videos of growing up as kids from our mom.
Yeah, how many hours of video is that?
There's a lot.
they had to
There's
dig through?
dozens of hours of home videos. And so they know probably
They
more
know
about us
things.
than we know about us at this point.
I haven't watched those videos in a long time.
Yeah. So if you want a good thing, and they did show it at MagFest this weekend, on both Friday and Sunday at MagFest out in Maryland, kind of by DC. And I actually flew out there to join them and kind of check it out and check out that scene. And the audience response was great. So everybody was just like, this is crazy. This whole story is really crazy. You guys did a great job. So they did a little Q&A afterwards. And we got to talk to people who saw it and stuff. And it was pretty neat. So audience response has been good so far. So again, similar thing. We're not lying about anything. It's just some good stuff. Just good things.
And
floating around.
just like Graphite, this is the first project that Forever an Astronaut has made of this magnitude.
I think Alessio, the producer or the director's goal has forever been a sort of feature length film, something like that. And for the MagFest screening in particular, it's a 6-episode format. But they actually did sort of, almost like a supercut sort of thing where they compiled it down into a 70-minute show as opposed to the 210-minute or something like that across all 6 episodes.
It's got some beef to it.
It's got some beef to it. So yeah, if you want to get behind the scenes, get more of us being silly, see how Crashlands was made and all the weird stuff that happened in the background.
Do you know how they're doing so they're selling it by episode?
I think it's a couple bucks per episode, the usual sort of style.
I assume you could probably buy them all together.
Yep.
I don't know.
I think probably a season at a time.
So, but yeah,
Maybe the first one does it give you a taste for free, or is it?
I think the first one's free.
Might be.
first one's free, and then you're hooked. Yeah,
But they're doing Steam trading cards and stuff, which apparently you could do with.
Can you get achievements?
You get achievements
for watching the episode?
Yeah. So Alyssa said he's working on like the art stuff for that, and his wife came over. She's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm making achievements from a movie." What? What are you talking
It would have
about,
been
man?
so cool if we could have somehow hooked the movie up to Butterscotch ID.
Oh,
and,
man.
like, open up that
There
would have been
is a way.
that
in
would have
which
been a hell of an intro to the Tuma quest chain.
Oh yeah.
To watch the documentary about.
shit. Actually, we might. Okay, let's because we can. I don't know, but the problem is movies. Unless Steam has a player, does Steam must have a player, right? Some sort of movie player.
Yeah. I assume you don't download it.
So if that movie player has the ability to query a server to ask something, right? Then we could have it check with us and ask if that person because somebody verifies their ownership of Crashlands on Steam, then we know their Steam ID. So then if they were to verify this thing on Steam, we could link those together and we could give them something.
Whoa.
So this
We'll have to dig
is
into that.
not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Almost definitely not.
But
I am intrigued.
like all things, it might happen. All right, so
That'd be cool. Yeah, have the Tuma, have some addition to the Tuma quest or something. That would be, that'd be really
yeah,
cool.
get some kind of a relic from the movie
Yeah.
that you could put up in your
That'd be sweet.
like the wall cow.
Shit, that would be awesome.
Anyway, also next weekend is the Global Game Jam, which we will be partaking in. I'm sorry, my grammar was all fucked up. In which we will be partaking.
You mean
We will
take parting?
In which we will
take
partake.
parting. we're going to partay through the Global Game Jam.
Wait, is that this weekend or next weekend?
It's next weekend.
Next weekend.
So 20th. It starts the 20th. It goes through the 22nd. If you have any interest whatsoever in seeing what it's like to develop a game, I would recommend looking up, trying to find if they're in your city or nearby within, driving distance of you, if there's a Global Game Jam site. There are how many sites around the world?
There's like 16,000 or something.
Thousands.
It's just an ungodly number.
Yeah, and just tons and tons of games come out of this. Usually in St. Louis, there's about 250 plus people come to this, and 50, 60 games come out of it. It's intense. Yeah. So we're going to be doing that. And yeah, we'll probably talk about it some more next week with more solid plans.
But you should start getting prepped.
Yeah.
So if you don't know how to
Clear the
do,
deck. Yeah.
if you clear your deck, make your life fine. If you don't know how to do any things that you would need to know how to do at all, just start studying a bit.
Yeah, if you download Game Maker, go through the tutorials, pick up Inkscape or some kind of art program, and make a hideous stick man.
Oh yeah,
or stick woman.
That's how it starts.
Stickman.
Stickman.
Yep. Stick person. Stick human.
Yeah.
So we'll have more info on that next week. But just know that it's coming, and we're giving you advance warning so that you have literally no excuse for not being there.
There's nothing. I can't think of anything.
There's not a single thing that could take precedence over it. All right, well, let's get to some questions.
Yes. So questions come from podcast@bscotch.net. You can ask them with your Bscotch ID or anonymously, but why would you want to do that? Because
or you could not ask if you really don't.
You
want
can just
to.
look at them.
We'd prefer if you did ask.
But if you do ask a question and we answer it, you do get a perk, a special little perk. Gives you a coffee with Butterscotch avatar for the forums and everything else, which is super fancy.
And thanks to everybody who went and answered our survey questions. Also at podcast.bscotch.net, there's a link to a survey asking just why do you listen to this thing? So I think the last time I checked last week, there were 70 responses or something, which is pretty good. It's like 10% of our listenership. And it was really interesting and fun to read.
It's very goofy.
Yeah, I don't think we've decided to change. No, there was one thing we did change, which is the podcast should now be louder.
Yeah. I told Patrick to normalize the audio up. I don't even know if those words go together.
I don't know either, but that's what happened. So thanks to Patrick and to the 2 or 3 of you and my wife who were like, this is too dang quiet and I can't hear anything.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Change the words. A little quiet.
All right. So we have just an ungodly amount of questions for some reason. So we're gonna do some question pops.
Oh, holy crap. I actually hadn't looked at this page since last week.
Yeah, there are a ridiculous number of questions.
We're going to blaze.
Also, comically, so Adam built this tools for us so we, in the background, could rearrange the questions on the podcast page, because usually what happens is you have to copy the questions over to a Google Doc, strip out a bunch of the formatting, reformat it a little bit, and then rearrange them into sort of an intelligible, good order. And so Adam built this thing where we could just drag and drop the questions that already exist on the podcast page and then just, have that up on your phone while we're doing the podcast. So cut out a big bunch of these steps. Problem is it doesn't save the order, which means that, if we have like 50 questions, which we do today,
rearrange them,
that you rearrange them on your phone, which is just
not the best.
Also, it can't scroll yet when you get to the top of the screen.
There's also
so you have to rearrange things like one jump at a time.
Bump them ladders up. So
it's a work in progress.
It's done manually, but hopefully we'll have better systems next time. So the first stuff I want to hit is questions about the next game, which there are a good couple of. So we'll just hit that real quick. The question comes from a bunch of different people. YOLO429 asks, what will be your next game? Deathtron1 asks, are you guys going to make more awesome games like Tile Fight and Crashlands, etc.? So what are we doing next? Let's give it just a brief little spiel. Hit him in the face.
Okay, so brief spiel. We are calling it Quadrupus 2 only because the core of the gameplay is going to be very much the same as original Quadrupus.
And it will be in the ocean?
It will be in the ocean, and it will follow Quadrupus characters of some sort. We don't know if it's going to be a direct sequel to Quadrupus or if it will be some kind of because we know that Crashlands is a sequel to Quadrupus. And so just in terms of the overall story of what's happening on Wonope. So in a way, it will be a sequel to both Crashlands and Quadrupus. Right. And that means that some of the characters from Crashlands may appear in this game. Some of the characters from Quadrupus Rampage may as well. And we want to still keep the focus on that, deep sea frenzied combat, but bring in some of the world building and storytelling and stuff that we did in Crashlands, as well as open up some avenues of gameplay that we didn't explore in Quadrupus Rampage, which are things that are a little bit more chilled out. because the whole game is just rampaging through the
It's just
ocean,
murder.
beating the hell out of fish.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to provide opportunities for players to also, chill out every now and then.
And I think this is one of the things we learned from, I guess you could see it as it is a continuation of Crashlands in the sort of quadrupus sense, I guess is the most weird way to put it, because while we're calling it internally Quadrupus 2, I don't know that it will actually be, titled as such when we launch it.
Yeah, it definitely won't. We don't know what the title is.
Yeah.
We're just calling it that because it's the closest analog.
I call it a spiritual successor, but taking all the stuff that we did in Crashlands that we loved, which is a lot of the world building, frankly, just the better overall combat mechanics and stuff, and integrating that into a more action-paced gameplay, but then taking this extra layer of some town building, and in general sort of chilled out progressing as a thing. So we're hoping to have all sorts of really goofy systems in this thing, which we basically spec'd the whole thing out. We were about a week in right now. Seth's already got it basically working as far as
I did it.
As far as the environments go and stuff. And so we're doing a ton of sort of experiments with the art right now to figure out what exactly we want this thing to look like, how we can make it just way more beautiful than Crashlands was, and certainly much more beautiful than Quadrupus was.
Yeah, and Sam and Seth are in the constant tug of war between artist and programmer.
So we argue about
artists
everything.
saying, "How can I do literally whatever I want?" And programmers saying, "How can I give you as many rules as possible?"
Yeah.
So the most recent one was I was like, I want huge environment pieces, Seth. It's like, I want to be able to put a monolith into the game that is just huge because we need some sense of scale. We've never been able to get a sense of scale in our games because even in Crashlands, the log trees plus any other resource you have can only be 1.5
Which are
tiles
supposed
tall.
to be trees, but they're just the same size as your character.
Because they can't be bigger than a tile. And
Which is part of the problem of Perlin noise, or part of the problem of using dynamic world generation as you're running around, is if you have something huge, and you can actually see this if you go into the tundra, if you run south, you will see the tops of glazer antlers appearing into existence at the bottom of your screen.
because the glazers are huge.
Glazers are enormous.
Yep.
And so if you had a really tall tree or something like that, and it spilled up too high, not only does it obscure things behind it, but you can see it popping into existence on the edge of the screen. So
we made a bunch of changes to make it so that we can actually do a suite of these various larger environment pieces, but they have their own restrictions themselves. So in this case, we can't do like huge logs.
well, we can if they're square shaped logs.
Yeah. So anything that's like a long rectangle or anything that's sort of got a weird shape to it, where it's not actually it's not essentially a blown up piece of the grid. So we went from being only one grid tile in size to now
Any number of grid tiles,
provided
it's a square.
square.
A power. Yeah. So it could be 2x2, could be 3x3, could be
possibilities
35 by
are
35.
nearly endless.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are basically.
They are endless.
So-
At a certain point, we run out of texture space.
But the thing is, it's already even just with lifting that particular restriction. We have these rocks that I made actually for Wonope when we were working on that project a good while ago. And so I just pulled them over and slapped them on the ground, and then Seth scaled them up to put them in the game. And even with that, just that scale difference between your character and these rocks that are on it's just a 3x3.
yeah, just encountering an enormous boulder.
It feels great.
That's towering
Yeah,
over
it
your
feels so
character.
good.
Yeah,
So,
it's all about, because I think you actually, and Seth and I were talking about this too. We were thinking through how would we do some of the things that Sam was wanting us to do, and but as we were talking about, we're just like, there's actually not much you have to do because the whole goal is basically to make it less and less obvious to the player that they're on a grid.
And also just to make the environment more interesting.
Yeah,
Where
right.
instead of literally
real.
everything you see is the same size.
right.
Now all of a sudden you encounter an enormous thing. You encounter a tiny little pebble, right?
Yep.
And it's all
And
fine.
it honestly doesn't take that much though
Mm-mm.
before it actually feels immersive and feels interesting and diverse.
Yeah. So we're still in the early phase where there's a lot of basically almost complete experimentation in terms of figuring out what the hell is going on. Says building systems this time around that are really, really flexible. So one of the huge problems we ran into with Crashlands was that it wasn't coded in such a way that that we could continue to add really, really cool stuff to the game. At some point, sort of the cost of the legacy of the code that was built early on started constricting the design of the game. So the question of, what if we did this? Because we just put this in the game. This would be a neat thing to have. As we got probably about like a year in, like the whole last year of that, it was pretty much like, we really can't.
Yeah, the answer just over time just becomes like, we're pretty much locked in. So,
Yeah.
So if we come up with this cool new idea, it would require reworking thing A through X.
Yeah.
To
Well,
make
that's
that
why
work.
it took 300 hours to put in controller support.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why we will never put in multiplayer support.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
But we can do, for example, same screen multiplayer with this next game because we're going to plan on it from the front and all the systems
from the ground up.
Yeah. So that's the plan with the next game stuff, and we'll keep you guys posted on that. As soon as we have screenshots that we're willing to share, then we'll share them.
There's an interesting thing that happens at the beginning of development from an art perspective, which is nothing has context.
Yes.
So making item number 500 in Crashlands was a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Because we knew what the terrain looked like. We knew what it was going to be made of. We knew where it came from. We knew what it was used for. We knew the specs of how big it's supposed to be in resolution. And so Sam could make an art asset for Crashlands in 18 minutes. Mm-hmm. But the beginning, probably 30 art assets, took several hours, if not more, a piece, and they got reworked over and over.
Well, it's actually because we refer to it almost like if you think about how you create a die or a cast for a mold. There's a lot of work that has to go into that initial piece of making sure your measurements are all correct, that everything is sort of set up properly. And most of the work, as far as the manufacturing process goes, involves getting that die made correctly.
Once you got it, you just pour plastic in.
Once you die, once you have it, you can you can just work and it's good to go. And so a lot of this earlier stuff, and I had forgotten about this because we haven't been here for so long, frankly, that the early phase is this combination of really fun because it's a ton of thinking and talking and doing this design work to try to figure out how everything puts together. And then a lot of frustration because most of the stuff you make just sort of grows to inform how wrong you were about your initial projection of what you needed to make. And so you're like, oh shit, I just spent 3 hours in this thing and now I understand what this needs to do.
Well, it's just like we make that joke about, Crashlands for the first month and a half that it existed was tiny. Like it was, you could walk across the whole world in 4 minutes and it took us 7 minutes to generate that world. And now it's, now you couldn't cover the entire map in 65 years and it generates instantly. But for the first month and a half of the game existing, that's the way it was. And we were just like, we'll probably figure it out. We'll keep building stuff, right?
And so there's always this tension too, as far as like moving toward a finished product with something. So something I have this a bunch with art pieces where I'll send him a rock or something. I'm like, all right, here's a rock. And I'm testing, like I'm looking for this, and this with regards to this rock. And then he might come back and say, okay, I think this is good. We should change this. Also, like you should finish this piece. And of course, at this point early in the game, I don't want to finish. Like I don't want to put the finishing work into anything because everything is so in flux. It's going to get reworked anyways. Yeah. And so it's this interesting, it's a really interesting communication thing. And a lot of fun, but I totally forgot how much.
Just what it's like to build a game.
Just that how much energy goes into this upfront piece of the design phase. Like it's just a lot of experiments, a lot of talking and all that stuff. So, but yeah, that's the plan. That's what we're doing next.
Yeah.
So Angry Muffin asks, I plan on purchasing Quadrupus 2 the second it's available on mobile and Steam. Good Angry Muffin.
Good on
Just the second? Why not sooner? Why wait?
Why not pre-order? But for those of us who like to know what a game is like before we buy it, will there be keys sent to popular YouTubers in lieu of a free demo?
Yep.
Yes, there will be.
How early though?
They will come out. Well, this is the question. Yeah, we don't know.
So with Crashlands, we sent out the keys like 3 weeks before launch.
Yeah.
And then our
2 weeks.
2 weeks. And then our press embargo got broken immediately.
Yep.
So
I think in our sort of theory has been and still is, though we didn't actually do the launch with that in mind the last time as strongly, is that you should only let people see a thing when they can go get it. Right. So yeah, we're probably going to send keys to streamers and do all that kind of stuff, but we might actually, and we'll have to give them ahead of time so they can make videos and do all that stuff. But our embargo might actually be launch day this time instead of a couple days before, because that way when people see it, they can go get it if they want to.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know.
So we're still figuring everything out. And I think one of the other things we want to do is we want to have a better run up to launch actually.
Yeah.
A lot of the games that frankly are just much more successful than the games that Crashlands or any of the games we made have had marketing run-ups of, at least 3, if not 6, if not 12 months, depending on how long the game took to make. And this poses a really troublesome problem for us because we make games really damn fast. And so if we make a game in 6 months, it's not like we have something on day one that we're ready to ship out and be like, look at this.
Well, and 3 months into that 6 months project, the game looks very different than it does in 6 months.
And so it's a weird, hard place we sort of inadvertently have ourselves in because of the fact that we dev games really fast, and also we don't have enough sort of bandwidth and stuff to just let them sit idly by while we make another one and wait a while. So we're still figuring all this stuff out. Next question comes from Madness J5, who says, "Why should I trust Butterscotch?"
You should.
Wait, is that the extent of the question?
No, the rest of it is, are all of your games really awesome? Should I? But I thought, let's get to the nitty gritty here.
So I think what you can trust is that we will go through maximum effort to try to make games that are fun and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not the game we make is actually the kind of game you like to play, who knows? Everybody has their own preferences. So, I mean, that's all we can say, right? We try.
Yeah, we try.
And we think we know what we're doing in a lot of respects, but you can't please everybody. So you should just use your judgment.
Yeah. And also as a business, our explicit goal, or I guess our goal is not explicitly to just make infinite money.
We'd be making free-to-play games if we want to do that.
Yeah. And in a very specific type, right? Mm-hmm. So our goal is we need to make enough money to stay afloat, hire people, run a studio, and do all of that, of course. But that isn't the actual goal of what we're doing. So I think just that in itself makes the thing more trustworthy. Mm-hmm. The moment profit isn't the primary motivator.
Yeah, we need your dollar, but we're not here for your dollar.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But we will take it.
We'll super take it.
Totally take it.
Our next question comes from Nehenson Jr., who says, how do you bros approach building tools like the Shenanimator or Ink Pump that integrate with other software? This is a good one for Adam, I thought, as far as Ink Pump.
Yeah, I guess how do we approach it? It's more. I guess it's mostly hope to God that the thing that I'm working with has a command line interface, which I've complained about in the past. I'm pretty sure in a recent episode. And so one of the key ones being GameMaker does not have that, but GameMaker's files are XML,
so we can
be hacked. So yeah, it's mostly I look for anything that can be hacked or a command line interface.
Yeah, anytime a piece of software outputs files and then reads from those files. Yeah, you could be like, can I just fuck with these? Exactly. Just open them up and start. Yep. And then once you figure out how the system works, you then write a piece of software that can also read those files, gives you a new interface to interact with those files, and then spits new and then replaces them in a different way.
Right. And after that, it's all about trying to fully grasp the problem that you're trying to solve. Right. So in the case of something like the Ink Pump, it was basically, I knew the endpoints, I knew what Samsung were trying to accomplish. And so I could look at them and watch what they were doing in these interfaces, get a sense of kind of what the rules were, and then make a draft. And that draft, as Sam and Seth will attest, was insufficient. and
we tried to use it. We tried to use it making bedti the yedti.
Yeah,
it worked for about 3 hours.
It worked for 3 hours, and then it just
ran into some problematic bugs, and then actually had to be rewritten because those bugs were so fundamental to how the thing worked. And so then I just rewrote it with all these new things in mind, and now we're in a position where it seems to work and do everything that it needs to do for now. But eventually we'll find out there's some other use cases.
Well, I think Sam and I discovered a new bug just this morning.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, yeah, I got another one for you.
It's fun. Good time.
So, but I think there's an interesting thing here because talking about the design of this piece of software or the design of the games, there's an interesting difficulty with actually knowing what the problem is before you've tried to make a solution to it.
Yeah,
and because in trying to solve it, you learn the full scope of the problem. Right. And you can't just solve it up front normally.
Right. So you have to get started is always the path you have to take. You just have to sketch out the thing, get an idea of kind of what it is, and then just take it one piece at a time. So for like the Ink Pump, the first question I had was, okay, what are the files that exist that I need to hack? And then how do I represent them inside of a program? Right. So that's before any of the other actual important pieces of the problem of how do I make it do all these cool automatic things. It was just, okay, start with piece one, get this stuff from where it exists out in the world into some model inside of the software. And then just go from there. Just keep on adding piece by piece. And then as you realize you fucked something up, go fix it.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Next question comes from R. Carnix, who asks, we see Crashlands Bog and Talfight 2 as the purple marsh, and both games also have a savanna. So does that make the Nightmare Realm the tundra of Crashlands?
I would say the Nightmare Realm is actually more like the bog.
Well, so Lumps is in the bog, or Lumps is sort of Maze is in the bog because of the perk. So if you play Talfight and you beat Lumps, who's the primary boss of the second biome, the Purple Marsh of Death, then you can find an outpost in Crashlands, which is actually Lumps, sort of like it's like a gridded maze that is meant to sort of.
So did the bog overtake the Purple Marsh of Death?
They've talked about it. The Brubus alluded to the fact that there were previous things. There was a previous entity.
Because the bog is an organism. The bog is basically cancer.
Yeah.
And then there was another cancer that grew up on the cancer, and that was Tuma.
They talked about how there was a previous set of creatures and everything that lived there before the bog rose up.
So the bog might be pretty recent.
It might be.
Or at least this region of it.
Yeah.
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 I don't know.
I guess we never really did say where exactly on Wonope Crashlands takes place.
Correct.
Versus Tile Fight 2, nor how far apart
The biomes are
from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if it's the case though that if the biomes are pretty far apart, then it may be the case that maybe the bog is where the Purple Marsh of Death was, but that also means that the bog might have been where all of Tile Fight 2 took place.
Yeah, because it was an artificial structure as well.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
it was a maze concocted by Forn.
Yep.
So interesting.
So the bog may have just sort of crept over the whole damn thing.
Whoa.
Who knows? Maybe someday somebody will find the remains of the entire Tile Fight
inside
of
maybe for our 20th anniversary. Because did you guys see so Diablo had their 20th anniversary, and so they remade the 16 level dungeon of the original Diablo inside of Diablo 3.
Yeah, because the original Diablo was actually quite small by comparison.
Yeah.
So 16 levels.
They remade it, and then they put a pixel filter on it, so everything looks pixelated. And then they locked your character. Your character doesn't have super dynamic animation poses and stuff.
So they just like breathing one or something.
They walk. They can only walk, and they can only get locked in the 4 different directions,
right?
Or the 8 different directions. So it ends up being hilarious. But if you watch a little bit of gameplay of it, and they made the butcher and a few of these other bosses and stuff.
Hated that butcher. the rogue crushed the butcher though, because all you got to do is you get behind a little, you run into a little enclosed area, shut the door, and if there's a gate that you can shoot arrows through, the butcher just paces in front of the gate and you just shoot arrows through.
I think I tried to do that.
Because otherwise you get one shot by the butcher. Like you cannot beat the butcher.
But you know how he's super fast though? Because I think I remember trying to do that a few times, and I would run in and then try to turn around and close the door, and he would just get in before I could close.
Well, no, he's not super fast. He's just exactly your speed. And so if you let him you have to be at least X number of tiles ahead of him. Otherwise you're boned.
I mean, Diablo was a huge thing for us back in the day.
Yeah, Diablo 2 more.
So.
The best. I was actually playing Diablo 3 with my wife last night a little bit, and while I was downloading, I went and looked at Diablo 2 because I wanted to just remind myself of like some pictures of it and get some stats and stuff, but then I looked at its platform requirements. It needed what was it, 600 megahertz processor?
Yep,
and 64 megabytes of RAM.
What?
I was like, what?
Holy shit. What does Crashlands take for RAM?
150.
Yeah.
Yeah. And needs a significantly faster processor. Well, actually, maybe not that much faster.
Yeah. Probably not.
No, maybe not.
Crashlands is pretty light, but
that's not that light.
But that's ridiculous, especially for how much content they have in there.
But to be fair, Crashlands baseline resolution for mobile is 960 by 540, which is like way higher than Diablo.
Yeah. It's more than twice as many pixels.
Right. Diablo 2 is 640 by 480.
Oh, yeah.
And then with the expansion, they upped it to 800 by 600. So they...
Oh, yeah. It's hilarious.
Real fancy.
All right, cool.
You will notice it if you go back and play it.
So next question comes from Mitron, who asks, Assassin's Creed is out in cinema, starring Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard. When Crashlands hits the big screen, which actors would you cast for Flux, Grand Mammy, and Hugo Duco?
Okay, so Hugo Duco would obviously be motion capture played by Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, of course.
What are you motion capturing? Just the head?
The face.
Yeah,
just the head. Yeah.
He played Smaug.
Smaug.
Okay, what about
Flux? Who'd be Flux
and Grand Mammy? Why not ask? Okay, yeah. Who would be the actor or actress to voice Juicebox?
So does who as a actress is like got the action but sassy vibes? What is that?
I don't know. I'm bad with remembering.
What's Katniss Everdeen's name? Katniss Everdeen. What's that one?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence. Should be funny.
She could swing it.
Maybe or Ahura from Star Trek. She like kicks a shitload of ass.
Doesn't she? What's her name? Doesn't she also plays that green person?
Yeah, and the Avatar girl. She's like all sorts of colors.
Why don't I know her name? She's everywhere. Anyway.
It's Zoe Saldana.
Oh yeah.
Is that it? I'm pretty sure
that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Either way,
who would you do? Who would you pick for Grand Mammy?
Meryl Streep, obviously.
Yeah. Hey, what about Juicebox? This is the funny one. Your voice actor for Juicebox.
I think also Benedict Cumberbatch.
What about The Rock?
Oh, Dwayne Johnson. Yeah. You know what? Let's just do Dwayne Johnson for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, he's so good. I love it.
Well, actually, Dwayne Johnson should play the Flux character, but it should be voice acted by Jennifer Lawrence.
Ooh, yeah.
Because it's the power suit.
Right,
I mean,
right.
We would just paint Dwayne Johnson purple, put a little mask on him,
And then have Jennifer Lawrence be.
I like this idea. All right, next question comes from Cody IVX, I think, or Cadilvix. Who says, say that someone wanted to play Goopademic. How would they go about downloading it? Let's talk about Goopademic real quick.
What is Goopademic?
It's a jam game we made in a day, 8 hours.
8 hours.
It's an 8-hour game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it exists. We're actually talking about this because we're looking to hire an administrative assistant, and
Which you can find on our blog. We have
/ office manager. And one of the things we need them to do is figure out where we put all these jam games.
Yeah, I think we should put it onto because we have an itch account.
Yeah,
where
we need to update our
where we
itch page.
started putting our jam games, the new ones.
And then we were like, we don't have time for this.
Yeah, well, we had this problem where we were making games so fast that we just misplaced like half of them. We would make them and then like,
oh shit,
we
even
don't fucking
I
know
don't
where they
know. I don't
went.
know where it
even
is.
ones that were published.
Talfight's missing like one of its whole art pages. I don't even know where it is.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
gone forever.
There's just
and,
stuff gone.
And Gerblins, like its source code is old source code that isn't even the final version. That doesn't even work.
Yeah.
How does that work?
We don't know.
I don't know. We just
Wait,
don't
wait,
know.
so you mean you
We made Gerblins,
Updated the game.
published it, and then that's it.
And that's
We don't
it.
know.
Yeah.
And then somehow the source code that we
Oh,
have
we
now,
we lost some key too, right?
yeah,
There's-
you watched the Java
we
key
lost
store.
the
I
Java
remember that.
key store, so we couldn't update it
it.
anyway, and so we just kind of walked away from it.
and then we lost this bunch of the source code. So it's just Gerblins is just exactly what it is, and is now mostly on.
Just keep in mind whenever you're trying to do something, just remember that Butterscotch has lost like half of the games that it has produced.
we probably won't lose the big ones.
I hope not.
No. Well, now that we're
We
actually
keep-
using proper source control.
Yeah, we keep pretty hardcore records and source control and stuff for the real games.
I haven't lost any Crashlands assets yet, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Is that true?
Well, I mean, I lost
Seth is dubious.
I lost a few of them as I was building them.
Oh, right. And then you had to rebuild it,
No, I just didn't.
or we just moved on.
Just
Yeah.
made something else.
Well, I guess that's not going in the game.
The lost Crashlands assets.
Oh man, yeah. I wonder how big that
Flux-
pile of items is.
Flux's sister was nope, that's not going to happen.
But yeah, if you we're at like bscotchnanny.itch.io or some.
Yeah, I think a
thing, I
few.
don't know.
How many up there? What have we got up there?
We have
Just a couple.
two, I think, two or three things.
Oh, so we didn't put any of the other ones. Up
No,
there.
we haven't. We haven't yet.
We did it
but-
for the two scatter jams.
Yeah, right,
We did
right.
Do
Yeah.
You Even Lift and Bedty the Yeti
Mhm.
are both up on
which
there.
being the most recent jam games are also among the best because
Yeah.
more skill and so
We need
on.
to get Shucks up there. It's still Shucks is just my favorite game we made.
Oh, it's my least favorite.
Seth hates it. I
I
love
hate
it.
it so much. but let's publish it.
Yeah, so I think we will try to collect things on itch.io eventually, but that'll probably be something we try to have somebody else do.
Cool. All right, next question comes from Jared Morgs, who says, as I play Crashlands on Android, I'm reminded of arcade games like Gauntlet Legends. If you were going to make a hypothetical arcade port of Crashlands, how would you balance out the gameplay experience to be something an arcade punter would play? I don't know how you could turn a 60-hour RPG into a coin op.
I guess
game.
what about Crashlands would remind a person of Gauntlet Legends? Let's start there and work our way back.
I don't know. I didn't even ask that question. Now that I am, I'm not certain.
So good question.
So for those who haven't played Gauntlet Legends, it is an up to 4-player game.
Dungeon crawler, sort of, I guess.
Kind of.
Kinda.
You have this. There's a big castle, and then you go to these different rooms in the castle, and you all stand on these warp sphincters
Mhm.
and then all of your characters sort of spin and shrink away, and then you reappear somewhere in a pre-built level.
They copied this from Quadrupus Rampage.
They stole it. They
Totally
cloned
stole
Quadrupus
it.
Rampage. And so you show up there, and then you basically just march through the level, and it's pretty simple. You just like you just run at an enemy, and your character just starts punching it, and then you also
You
have
have,
like,
you have a few
attack.
power ups and
You have
stuff.
a range
yeah.
attack and then a turbo attack, which lets you
Right.
unleash a crazy, cool, like demon head that
And
just
you-
clears out a wave of enemies.
yeah, and your turbo charges.
And there's an
up.
announcer which breaks immersion really hardcore,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
but it's fun.
You know,
And
the
when
worst
you
part
pick
about
up food, your character goes, sustenance.
or they go, oh no. My favorite one is in that. So I'm personally a huge fan of the Gauntlet series, and we play Dark Legend all the time. This is the PlayStation 1. 4-player, it had like 60 hours of content
PS2.
on the PS2, just a ton of stuff.
That was
Me and my
Dark
buddies played.
Legacy.
Dark
Was it-
Legacy?
Is that it? Gauntlet.
One of
I don't know.
Dark Legend,
Gauntlet
Legacy, whatever.
Subtitle.
There's a jester in it, but they took a long time and they released Gauntlet 7 Sorrows, I think it was called.
Is that the recent one that we didn't like?
That was also a bad one. So the previous gameplay was just all this sort of hacking around, just ridiculous stuff. And then they tried to do actual sort of class-based gameplay. The problem was that the balance was so out of whack in Seven Sorrows that if anybody on your team was playing as the warrior class, then they just killed everything. And the way experience was given was it just went to whoever killed people.
Oh, so
and one of the classes was even like a support class where you could put down this rock and it would gravitate everything, all the enemies to the rock. And then your warrior guy could come up and just like, boom.
harvest all the XP.
Yeah. And so we started doing this and I was playing with my buddies, same guys who I played Dark Legacy with. And I picked the sorcerer guy who can put these rocks down and do all this weird time manipulation. So I was like, oh, this is going to be just the most fun, cool support role ever. Until we get 5 levels in, I'm still level 2. And all my friends are like level 9 and 10. And I'm just sitting there with my shitty rocks.
I gotta be honest though. I mean, these kinds of adversarial co-op mechanics.
Yep.
Like this is why I don't play League of Legends.
Yep.
Is because I hate the idea that I
You can
have to
steal someone's kill.
Yeah, in order to make my character better, I have to walk up to my teammate who's been like beating on this minion and be like, nah, and just take the last hit. And then basically taking gold from my teammate and depriving them of being able to advance.
Well, let's talk about this with regards to Quadrupus 2.
Yeah.
Because one of the sort of focal points we've been using as a design, just a easy sort of design blueprint is actually parts of Gauntlet and Gauntlet Dark Legacy, as well as some other games. But one of the big things we're trying to do is to make it actually be essentially the actually good co-op RPG game that you can go play with your buddies. We all played the actual Gauntlet that came out, or like the remastered one that came out recently on Steam. It has a shitload of sales. When I tried to play on multiplayer, I couldn't find anybody. So I'm not sure where these people are. But we played it all together and it was not
It just wasn't fun.
I don't know what the deal was exactly. It just wasn't good. So we're trying to hit, we're looking at all these
because
examples.
you've grown up now and you just can't enjoy things. You know, there's a
No, 'cause
you've
we-
lost the
we-
capacity for wonder.
But not too long ago, we did play the Gauntlet on PS2 again. Like a
Oh,
year
that was
ago.
pretty
And it was
And it
so
was still
fun.
fun.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So we'll be hitting a few of these sort of design points that they do really well in some of these co-op games, and things like Alien Swarm, which is a free game on Steam. If you haven't played it, it's incredible. Plus Gauntlet Dark Legacy is kind of where we're aiming to situate this thing in terms of the feel of running around with a buddy, in this case in the ocean. You won't
Maybe
be
a little bit of Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there's a little bit of Left 4 Dead in there. So you have to slap the shit out of your
We've
friend
got
when
a
they go
down
down.
mechanic.
Did you go up and slam the X button a bunch? And
I
there's
did
a slap motion?
I did have a fuck up though, because I have it so that when your character goes down, so if you're in single player mode, when you go down, you're just done. Right. If you're multiplayer mode, you can get this kind of second wind thing where you go down, other player comes up and they just slap the shit out of you, and then you become revived somehow with a little sliver of health
slapping.
back.
Yeah.
And I had implemented a mechanic where the body of your character has some inertia to it, where when you
It wasn't like some though.
Well,
I don't know what was happening
Hold on.
because it was a lot. Like you would die, your body would just go sailing.
Well,
into
yeah,
the
this is
abyss.
the problem. Yeah, it was supposed to be that whatever hit you, your body would kind of go the opposite direction and kind of do a little slide move just for a brief moment. But I fucked up the balance on it and then forgot about it. So I made it so that it was a 6-second deceleration where it would take 6 entire seconds to level off. So you'd get hit by something and then all of a sudden you just flew off the level. And so then Sam and I were trying to do a thing where his floating body was out there like over the abyss. And so I would use my ink and I would shoot over there and then like slap him as I flew past and then go back and like regenerate my ink and fly back up and slap him again. And then I finally got him slapped up to
And
hell.
then it just fell
And
down.
then he just fell down.
Which does make sense. There was also a bug with the same mechanic when I tested it the first time, where if you slap someone and revive them all the way, it would actually clone them.
Right. but
They would stay down.
it would clone them at the starting location.
Right.
So they would start running, and then if you slapped the body again, then it would
clone
clone a
another
new
one.
one. So you had like this weird
Whoa.
army of like identical quadrupeds running around.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're working on something
Good
that
times.
that a group of people can actually play and really, really enjoy the shit out of.
Or an army of clones.
Or Army of Clones.
Locally, though, local multiplayer.
All right, next question comes from Vapor Fox, and this is actually a bug. So I just want to address this real quick. In the Crashlands Juice Mancy patch, essentially you can spend juice on things that you can't actually upgrade. In other words, you can spend juice and not get anything in return.
Well, this only applies to the gongs.
Yeah,
The fish.
the fish weapons, the 4 different fish weapons in the game. So don't spend any money on those. There's a patch coming to fix it, but if you guys listen to this and you get a gong, don't try to upgrade it because it's already legendary. What are you doing? What are you doing?
No, it's not.
Isn't that?
They're epic.
They're epic.
Wait,
The gongs
what?
are all epic. You can't upgrade them to legendary because they're the they are the only non-legendary weapons in the game that have a fixed quality, right? So normally weapons have variable qualities to them, and the gongs force themselves to be epic. So when you go to upgrade them, they're like, cool, no problem. I'll take your juice. Let me just re-roll oh, whoops, I'm epic still. Deal with it. We added that voiceover. That was our fix.
Deal with
it. No, actually, Sure has been doing a round of bug fixes on Crashlands this past week, and he's already got that taken care of. So
cool.
In the next patch, that'll be fixed.
Sweet. Our next question comes from Sin Linux, who asks, if you guys could forget any game, either because you hated it or really loved it, which would it be?
I would forget Kerbal Space Program.
To do it all over again?
I agree. Yep.
Because there are a lot of games.
Portal, original Portal.
Oh yeah, any puzzle game.
Any puzzle
would be good
game.
to be able to forget because once
you
the
do it
replay
once.
value of a puzzle game is virtually zero.
Yeah.
Portal still swings it a bit because GLaDOS is so good. It just has
You got
character.
if you wait a few years, it's kind of like forgetting everything.
Mm-hmm.
It is surprising how I was actually marveling at this because the last time I replayed Portal was a couple of years ago, I think. But it was easily 6 years after the last time I had played it, like a long time. And I still remembered all the puzzles. And I was like, how is my brain doing this when it can't do infinite, really useful, important things?
What about, I think the first Dragon Age game.
Oh yeah.
I think that'd be one that I would actually forget because and maybe Pokemon, because the sheer fun of those experiences, and like in Dragon Age, it's a wonder.
Well, except if you wanted to forget Pokemon, you'd have to forget all the Pokemon games because they're all basically
the same.
identical.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think I'd do that.
Because if you forgot only one of the Pokemon games,
You still remember the rest, which are the same as
Well, here's
that
the question. Which game would you not forget on purpose? Because forgetting it would be really difficult for getting back into it.
For me, it would be like when I first started playing World of Warcraft, because you can't do that again. Right. Like we're in a different time. The game is different now. Everything is different. And if I forgot that, there's no way I could ever recapture what it was like to play
Pathways into
Vanilla WoW.
Darkness.
Oh yeah.
Because I found a version of it that you can like played an emulator and all that kind of stuff, and played it, and it does not hold up to what I remember it being.
So you gotta make sure you remember it as
it was. Yeah. So
which
it's
is
kind of the same as
it is
that
now,
Yeah.
but it just seemed a lot better. Right. Well, this is actually, I think this is the problem of trying to make a game that has kind of like a gritty realism to it.
Mm-hmm.
It just does not stand the test of time
because not at all.
Yeah. It's all about games don't look realistic. They just look more realistic than other games of the same time span.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because even like when you look at a screenshot, even today, when you look at a screenshot of a game that boasts hyper realism, you can tell it's a game.
Yeah.
You look at it,
Some of them are
it's a
getting
game.
real.
They're getting closer and closer and closer, but nobody's hit it yet. Where you look at a game, you're like, wait, is that a photograph or is that it's just no question.
I think we're close to that.
Pretty close.
I'd say, we're close, but not there yet.
You know what you could do though? Just go outside.
Yep.
Instead,
you could just go outside and fight dragons.
Yeah, I mean, there's that little wrinkle.
There's a little wrinkle to it.
I think as far as things that I definitely would not forget, I think Super Meat Boy, which I played through once, the whole thing.
I haven't beaten it.
Well, so the reason I would not forget it is because like the amount of skill that's required to get to the end of that fucking game is unreal. And like having to start back over, nothing I want to do. No, but I want all the goods that came from, I want to keep my reward from that.
And interestingly though, that's having a high skill game.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like a Kerbal Space Program, right? Where knowing a lot of things about the game is the thing that lets you be good at the game.
Correct. Skill game's the same.
Yeah.
But if it's also a puzzle game at the school where the puzzle is the knowing, which is also true of the Kerbal Space Program, that is an interesting complication, right? Because with something like Super Meat Boy, the puzzles are all about skill, right? So you still, even no matter how good you are, you still have to like figure out, navigate, and solve the puzzles. But with Kerbal Space Program, they're just actually equivalent. So yeah, because I think the reason I would like to forget Kerbal Space Program is because now, even though I know how to do stuff now, which makes it fun because I can go do the things. Now it's sort of like I already solved the puzzle, even though I still have to go do it.
Right.
It's like doing work.
It's like doing work.
Well, yeah. I stopped playing Kerbal Space Program when I landed a jet on one of the moons of basically Jupiter.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I figured it out. I figured out
I have mastered
the thing. I can't go any further or do anything bigger than this.
Did you ever try doing one of those challenges like fly and land on the moon without actually using an external view.
Yeah,
So
I did that.
Did you do that?
From the cockpit?
Yeah, so I got a mod that adds like a legit instrument panel to the inside of your cockpit, so you can attach cameras to the outside of your vessel, so you can check like how your engines are doing, and then
Five
it
Nights at
has
Freddy's.
it has fuel gauges and stuff, and of course you're in a little capsule, and so all you have is a little tiny window. It's like the size of a postage stamp that is pointing up, like the direction the rocket is pointing, basically, but kind of off to the side.
So
how did you land it?
Very slowly. I brought a ton of extra fuel, and
because that's like the one thing that makes Kerbal Space Program.
Well, because you can use you can use a camera, right? So I have an external camera.
Does he have one pointing down?
Yeah, and then I put spotlights on the vessel so I could see the lights. Like the lights, they shrink as you get closer to the ground. So I did some test landings on Kerbin, so I could get a sense of like how do the lights look when I'm landing, so I can get a good sense of it. Because your altitude is your altitude, not from the actual ground you're above,
exactly,
just
from
over
sea level.
I think it's more impressive not to kill a dragon in a video game, but to manually land a rocket on the moon.
that's a medium.
Yeah, because I had to build that fucking rocket.
Man, that is the one thing that I think makes Kerbal Space Program super hard is exactly that the height it gives you is from sea level, not from the ground you're trying to fucking land on.
Right.
so you never know for sure, especially when you're trying to land on a moon or something. Like you're never quite sure.
Where's the sea?
You're not quite sure what your actual altitude is.
You don't know.
And I'll do fun things like if I'm trying to orbit around the moon or do a flyby or something, I'll try to line it up because the moon has this super long valley that does have an altitude of 0 at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll try to line up my flight so
go through it,
so I can fly through the valley at like 200 feet. Because if you're orbiting the moon, but at 200 feet, you're moving it like
real fast,
1,000 meters per second.
Right.
And so you're basically a bullet, and you're just like flying right over
channel.
And you can even do fun tricks like get your Kerbal out and have your Kerbal like EVA suit down like right above the ground. So their toe is like right above the ground. But since they're basically orbiting, then they'll never touch the ground. And there's
it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, and there's no wind resistance, so your Kerbal isn't gonna like so you're just like floating there. Yeah, it's like doing this. So this to me beats the hell out of like going off a ramp on a motorcycle and doing a flip. You know, like fly to the damn moon and like get one toe length above the ground as you're traveling 1 kilometer a second. You know, that's a legit stunt.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Next question comes from Dageki, who asks, thoughts on creating a game studio planter type suite of tools, manuals, guidelines, etc. as a Butterscotch product. A planter being, something we could give to someone as sort of like a toolkit for getting going on your own studio journey.
We've thought about this. Our biggest trouble is, I don't want to be super cynical, but we talk to a lot of people. A lot of people approach us about doing this kind of stuff, about starting a studio or whatever. And they'll ask us all kind of questions. When we check in with them a year later, they've
done none of
they haven't done almost any of the things that we talked about, And so I think on the flip side, though, talking to somebody one-on-one for like an hour, they're not going to remember a lot of the things as well.
But it's not even that. I think there's just it's a probability game, right? There's just some fraction of people who will actually go out and do that thing. So if you make a product that you can sell to a huge number of people,
then definitely some of them are going to be. They're going to not just and also having it there as a reference. Like I think it's different to talk to somebody because there's the memory problem, there's the one-on-one problem, right? Yeah. So if you make a book or something that has all your knowledge in it, send it out there. Yeah, I mean you're probably going to get some people who actually can make use of it and come through. So I think it would be worth doing.
Yeah, we've started to be asked by people if we would consider either partnership or publishing. As in not publishers aren't asking us this, other devs are, because we're starting to really get a feel, I think, at least I hope, for where the industry's at and how to actually do.
We need to launch one more game to see if it's actually
true. Right. Yeah. So we're not going to consider ourselves actually knowing what the fuck we're doing until basically Quadrupus 2 comes out and works. If that's the case, we have talked internally about the potential for doing for potentially branching off a little publishing wing or something like that.
Yeah, but a big question there though is one of our major goals as a studio is to create a coherent single universe. And if we start acting as a publisher,
it would probably be branded completely differently.
Right. Then we have to either brand it completely differently, or then which now adds some kind of interesting complications, I guess, or I don't know. It just kind of changes the value proposition of that. But if we want to publish things and keep our brand on it, that would mean that we would actually need to be part of the development process so that we could say, you need to bring this thing into the universe, which could also be cool because that would expand the speed at which the universe itself gets developed. But then removes a lot of control that we would otherwise have.
Yeah.
And it, I think, for developers who would seek out a publisher trying just so that they could, get an audience, have just good general success for their game. They probably have their own ideas of what they want their game to be like. And,
right.
And
we're not all about that.
Yeah, we don't tell anybody what to do.
Yeah.
Nope. But I think it's also the case too that things change a lot. Our studio changes a lot, our ideas change a lot, and the atmosphere that we operate in, the industry and everything else changes a lot. And so
yeah, we're definitely at best we're years away from just like a kit,
Yeah, I mean, if we wrote a book starting now, by the time we finished,
we'd be like, oh god,
we'd be like, okay, we got to scrap the first 3 quarters, So maybe a couple years from now, we've had a couple more games out. Yeah. We are still existing as a studio.
Yeah, I mean, we're learning at a tremendous rate. I think a sort of funny example of this is actually the marketing that we did for Crashlands as far as how the game was framed and everything else. And just recently we were talking about it and we're like, I think we just did that wrong. We actually just did it wrong.
Yeah. The thing, all of it, we did that part wrong.
And that came from the last year of seeing how the success of the game played out, how well it did and didn't do with regards to other games, how people in the press talked about it and players talked about it because of their perception going in, which we have some influence over. And then also from reading a shitload of books and talking to people. And so you slowly move to these points of greater and greater knowledge. And yeah, I think we're still miles away from the point. Like I have not felt that slow down at all.
Yeah.
Once I feel like it starts to actually sort of equilibrate a little bit and it's sort of, we have a steady state of knowledge about how to go about what we're doing, then yeah, I think building a kit would be really cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's an added layer of complication because people like to think about game development as a thing that you do, like you develop games, right? Except game development as a discipline is a fusion of basically every discipline.
Yep.
I mean, you're talking not just the game itself, the art, the engineering, the storytelling, the music, the cinematography, the programming, the math,
the business.
Then there's the business side. And then there's the marketing. There's what about taxes? How do you do?
Yeah.
that?
Game development is an industry. It's not a field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I really feel for people who want to do it solo because holy hell, that's hard. Like that's a lot of things to master. And it takes years and years and years to do it. It's totally doable, but it's very hard. So, making a book that's just like, oh, here's the game development, guide. It's a guide.
It would start with create a team and then build that into a business. And then here are the kinds of roles you're going to need. And then here's the kind of people who need to fill those roles. And here's what
kind of like
an
architectural blueprint sort of thing, I guess.
Yeah. And we could totally do that. But yeah, there are a whole bunch of other sort of more subtle aspects to all those different roles and parts of the team that would need their own entire segments of the book or even their own books, because there's just a lot. There's a lot to it.
There's a lot of crap going on.
Yeah.
All right, we got 2 quick fire questions. First one's from Ragnaros. Do you vape?
No.
Not yet, or just no. One of those two.
I would be down with vaping.
It looks fun. That's the thing.
The vapeness.
Being in a cool cinnamon cloud is pretty fucking
cinnamon
cool.
cloud.
I think Andy does, right?
Yep.
Andy does, yeah. So we have one of us.
We got a buddy as well here in St. Louis who has a pipe, a vape pipe.
Oh yeah.
It looks like a battery on a stick. It looks like the exact kind of thing that you would imagine a sci-fi director would put in a movie that takes place like in 80 years. Like everybody's smoking pipes still, but they're like batteries.
Electronic.
That's pretty cool.
Sophisticated but futuristic.
Last question comes from Killer Prakal, who says, do you watch anime?
Not as a rule.
You mean, wait, not as a rule, as in like you don't?
No, I mean, like, there are some people who are just like, yes, I watch anime.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, I
have watched anime
and
enjoyed them.
And I will watch anime. I don't
Watch anime.
Watch anime.
I'm not
As,
an
as a
anime
thing.
enthusiast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The anime I have watched has largely been pretty good.
Full Metal Alchemist.
Full Metal Alchemist. I watched Attack on Titan. There is a thing
That one's
though.
weird.
It's weird, but there's a thing that happens in a lot of anime that I think it's an interesting trait of the sort of art style, but there will be a moment where, for example, like somebody's about to punch someone, right? And like their fist will start going, and then all of a sudden, like it'll show like the fist, and then there'll be all these like flashy lines going past it, and then it'll clip to the face of the person who's either doing the punching or about to be punched or something. And then all of a sudden they'll be like, back in my childhood. And then there'll be this like entire episode long flashback
Between a fist landing.
Yeah, telling some kind of a super long story.
Isn't that mostly just Dragon Ball Z?
No, I mean, this happens in
other ones
Attack
too?
on Titan.
Or does it?
Yeah, like somebody will be about to deliver some death blow to a Titan or something, and then it'll tell their whole life story from the time the sword goes back. But I think that's what people like about it is.
Well, yeah, that's where the story is.
Yeah,
Right?
storytelling's usually really good.
Yeah, Samurai Champloo, whatever, however you say it.
Shampoo?
Shampoo. It always sounds like shampoo, but I watched that one a long time ago and then rewatched it not too long ago. Super good. I think it's on Netflix. Actually.
Yeah, I just started watching. It's not anime, but a cartoon. But I started watching Gravity Falls.
Was it good?
It's good.
Is it as good as Rick and Morty?
It's very different. It's not
Okay.
It's not so adult
Is it as
oriented.
enjoyable?
It's incredibly enjoyable.
Okay.
So yeah, I would recommend. I'm only like 2 episodes deep, but they're this hilarious skit where they're trying to go get a picture of like a Loch Ness monster sort of creature, and the guy's like, I know it's gonna happen because every time people are like, oh, I brought my camera, but it's out of film, or oh no, the flash is dead, the battery's dead. So he brings 17 disposable cameras and he puts them like all over the place, and then he gives 4 of them each to his 2 buddies. And then over the course of like a minute, there's just this running gag where he's trying to communicate, like, put these all over the place. And then they're like, what? You just say throw it overboard? And he's like, no. He's like, oh, sorry, I already threw 2 of them in the water. And then he's like, damn it. And he slams his hand down and there's a camera under it. And he brings the camera. And so it gets all the way down to them like having no fucking cameras. So like they do that. They do it really well. Like a lot of those running gags and stuff. So it's pretty funny.
So I will say though, there's something I want to say before we end the podcast.
What's that?
About this question. The question of, do you watch anime? Because there are people in the world who refuse to partake in certain genres of things or certain
food, movies, books.
I don't like X type of food. I won't watch X type of movie. I won't read this type of book. Man, you're missing out.
Oh yeah.
You're just wrong.
Yeah.
That's
you can find all kinds of enjoyable
you don't
shit.
get to just take a category and be like, nah.
Nah, man, nah.
Fuck it.
Fuck that category.
It's true. I think the truth is for every single time that I've had games is an easy example. Books too. Like I used to just hate reading any sort of historical accounts of anything. And then I read the Lincoln book, which is like a 600-page mammoth.
Yeah.
And it was so damn good that I was like, I need to do more of this. Like this is a thing for me now.
When it turns out
more.
what you don't like reading is badly written books.
Yes. I don't like playing. I also don't like playing shitty games. Every game genre that I've played where I'm like, I just hate this particular genre. Even free to play stuff. We're talking about this with Clash Royale.
You may have not liked that game.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and
the
sort of
whole
ruins
idea
it for you.
Yeah, but the whole idea of just deciding that game represents the whole fucking genre, you know?
Man. Stay fresh. Stay like a baby.
Quit being a bigot.
Stay frosty.
Stay frosty.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.